Bob Uecker.
Mr. Baseball.
First of all, have you ever really listened to him do a game?
I've listened in parts. I can't say listen to a whole game,
because of Sirius XM, I've had the chance to listen to him do some games. He was a terrific baseball announcer. Baseball announcer. And feel for the game, loved the Brewers, loved the city of Milwaukee, loved them. And, as an entertainer, look, he was Mr. Belvedere, the TV show. Mm-hmm. He made other TV appearances during the course of his career, but he had his own show.
He was on Major League.
Right, in Major League.
Oof.
In Major League 1 and 2, I don't know if they wrote that stuff for him. Like when Vince Scully did For the Love of the Game, the Kevin Costner movie where he throws the perfect game for the Detroit Tigers, Vince Scully does the broadcast. And he went to the director and he said, I'm a little uncomfortable here. He said, I haven't received a script yet. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and goes, you don't seem to understand. You're Vince Scully. He says, just call the game. And he ad-libbed the whole thing.
Jeez.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yankee Stadium, the cathedral, has a chapel. I mean, that's him. That's Vince Scully. Well, Uecker was like that. Except he was, a riot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had a big grand slam once. He said, made the final 13-2. Right? Yeah. How do you catch a knuckleball? He says, go. When it stops rolling, you pick it up. Right? Over and over and over, stuff like that. Yet he is a great baseball mind, and I'll give you an example of that. Mm-hmm. Jim Spence wrote a book, who was at ABC for years, and they were doing Monday Night Baseball. And I read Jim Spence's book. It was excellent. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff as to how ABC operated with Monday Night Football, Monday Night Baseball, the Olympics. Really, really terrific stuff. Monday Night Baseball, the Yankees were playing Detroit. And this was the year of a pitcher by the name of Mark the Bird Fidrich. Mm-hmm. Rookie, talked to the baseball, patted the mound, won 19 games. He was the starting pitcher in the All-Star game in that year. Obviously, arm trouble got him, but he was the phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And so this is before the All-Star game. So it's Monday Night Baseball, and the team was Bob Prince, Warner Wolf, he was in the Howard Cosell role, and Bob Uecker. Well, Spence says they get down to a production meeting. They said, okay, who are we going to feature here? And the producers, who are all from New York, they're all from New York. I mean, it still happens today. It's like, ridiculous.
New York, L.A.
Yeah. We're going to feature Ken Holtzman. We're looking at each other like, Ken Holtzman? What are we featuring Ken Holtzman for? They said, we want to feature Mark Fidrich. They go, no, you don't understand. They said, Ken Holtzman is the Yankees starting pitcher and has won games in the last 3 years in the World Series. They're like, what are you talking about? They said, this guy is the phenomenon. And Uecker's arguing with them behind again, we always hear Uecker with all the funny lines. But he had a great sports and baseball acumen. Mm-hmm. All right? And he's arguing with them saying, you can't do this. This is the guy we need to feature. And, of course, he got shot down, and in the open, they feature Ken Holtzman. When the game was over, everybody was talking about Mark the Bird Fidrich. Fidrich threw a complete game. Detroit won the game. He was talking to the ball. He's patting them. He's doing all the stuff, all the antics he did during the course of the game. All right? But that was his... that was his feel for the game. The New York guys had no feel for the game. Mm-mm. Oh, it's Holtzman. But it's like, guys, do you watch baseball? Are you into what's going on? But that's the way Uecker was. He may have been funny and had 1,000 one-liners, but he knew his sport. He had a feel for his sport, and I thought when I listened to him, that's one of the great things about Sirius XM. I know, we're terrestrial radio and all thing, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, I don't care. I live in the real world.
Yeah.
All right. Management doesn't, but I live in the real world. I mean, I have the ability to hear somebody else do some games. I'm going to listen. And he's terrific. Really good at it. And you could not tell he was 90 years old. He sounded like a guy doing the game in his 60s. Right? And it's a real it's a shame that but 90 years old, what a great life. What a great life.
As good as they get. One of the best.
I mean, he played for the Phillies, he played for a lot of different teams along the way.
He, by the way, hosted Saturday Night Live and WrestleMania, which I did not know.
Yeah.
So, just an incredible.
I mean, Milwaukee meant everything to him because that's the first team that signed him. Yeah. He was with the Milwaukee Braves, obviously, not the Brewers.
Yeah. He also was born in Milwaukee on January 26th, 1934. And he apparently the back of his baseball card said he was born in 35, and he never corrected them until 2014. Yeah. And he was like, hey, it's my 80th.
Yeah. He was on the Cardinals 64 team that won the World Series as a backup catcher, right, to Tim McCarver. He said, I had 2 career highlights. He says, I got an intentional walk one time from Sandy Koufax. He says, I got out in a rundown against the Mets.
Hey, those are 2 highlights right there.
And he got to be friends with Bud Selig. The Seligs, of course, were the ones that owned the Brewers. Selig was the one that bought the team, moved them from Seattle to Milwaukee. But in a serious moment, they asked him about what all this meant. He said to be able to do a game each and every day throughout the summer and talk to people every day at 6:30 for a night game, you become a part of people's families. He says, I know that because I get mail from people that tell me that. That's part of the reward for being here, just to be recognized by the way you talk, the way you describe a game, whatever. And he's right about that. He's right about that. When he got put into the Hall of Fame in 2003, he says, look, and this is not sour grapes by any means. I still think I should have gone in here as a player. I mean, he just was a funny guy. All those Miller Lite commercials he did, right? Mr. Belvedere, by the way, had 122 episodes. Not exactly the 13 weeks and out.
No.
Okay. Major League.
I can hear
Harry
some of his calls.
Doyle.
I can hear vividly in my head. I haven't seen Major League in years. I can hear his voice in Major League and all of the things he was saying and the things he was doing. Like, all of it's in my brain.
Right.
And
just a bit outside. Ball 4, ball 8, ball 12. How could be laying off pitches? Right. Monty. Right. And then I think it's Major League too. The Indians are in a deep slump. Okay. They're now the Guardians. Okay.
in the movie.
The Indians are in a deep slump. Monty, take over. I'm gone. He puts his head down. And Monty comes on and goes, fly ball. Caught. All right. Well, then the Indians in their own dugout get into a fight with each other. And the Red Sox are looking over like, what the heck? Right? And Uecker pops himself up. Ah! The Indians, for the first time in weeks, showing signs of life. He says, I tell you, Vaughn's going to keep that right hand up. Like the whole movie. He says, time now for another edition of TV Talk. he says, in case you haven't noticed, and based on the attendance you haven't, where do we find this guy? I'm telling you, they didn't write that stuff. He had to have ad-libbed a whole ton of that stuff. They probably looked at him as a guy because Major League One was filmed in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Right? Now, 2 was filmed down in Baltimore. Okay? But oh, now he gets serious about his health later in life because he'd had heart surgery, and so he started swimming literally every day. And he says, I signed with the Milwaukee Brewers for $3,000. That bothered my dad at the time because he didn't have that kind of but he eventually scraped it together. So when I came up to bat with 3 men on and 2 outs in the ninth, then they looked at the other team's dugout and they were already in street clothes. Oh, man.
The best there was.
They had the Uecker seats in the upper deck. It was an obstructed seat for $1. And you know what? There are certain people in life. Everybody is unique unto themselves. Like take Jerry Valeri. No, people are unique unto themselves. Uecker is the definition of that. Really, I mean, just
incredible.
Well, no. Did I ever meet him? Same room? Never. I never was around him one time in my life. So I just watched from afar. But there are some people that they get into shtick, and then over a period of time it becomes shtick. And you're like, all right, it doesn't have the same effect as it did the first how many times you heard them, whatever. It was never shtick with him. He was like just naturally a funny guy. He didn't do the same things twice. Didn't have the same lines twice. But when it came time to be serious, he was serious. When the Brewers recently have had some great teams, he was really into, like, he loved the city of Milwaukee. He loved the Brewers. He may have done Mr. Belvedere in Hollywood. He was a guy that loved Milwaukee. And
yeah,
special guy.